Hello again everyone, and welcome back to Skyblock News. I'm your host Derailious, and today I'm going to be going over the updates in Skyblock 0.20.5, which is the Artist's Abode update. This includes a bunch of new features, but also some dungeon improvements and some great quality of life changes. Before we get into this, I just want to say, we are getting very close to 70k, so if you could leave a like and subscribe down below, that really would mean a ton. Also, make sure to use code RAIL in the Hypixel store for 5% off your order. It really does help out the channel a lot, and you guys are basically the reason I'm able to go to college. Without any further ado though, let's launch right into this. Starting off, if you head over by the Coliseum and then look over at your left, you may notice this building. Heading inside, we can see Vincent, who is our NPC for this update. Clicking on him, we can see he has 3 different dyes as his main dyes. Looking at his basic perk, each Skyblock year, he picks 3 different dyes, and they have boosted rates for the year. So Carmine dye has double rates, the Celeste dye has double rates, and the Copper dye has triple rates. There is also a bunch of new dyes in this dye compendium over here. I've kind of talked about some of these and what they do and how they work, but some of the most interesting ones in my opinion are the Archfiend dye, which you can get from rolling a fancy dice. You can get the Celeste dye now from killing Sven Packmasters instead of the wolves in the hub. There's also a few others that are pretty neat. Iceberg is pretty nice. Jade dye is pretty cool. Nadeshiko dye you get from the experiments at the experimentation table, which I think is really cool. You can also get things like the Dung dye from vacuuming pests in the garden. Basically, if there's something you can do in Skyblock, there's almost certainly a dye you could theoretically get from it. There's also the Sangria dye, which I think looks really awesome. This you can get from killing Riftstalker Bloodfiends or the vampires in Vampire Slayer. And as you can see at tier 5, it's a 1 in 25k rate, which is pretty cool. There's also Secret dye if you like dungeon secrets. And that's pretty much all the interesting ones. Some of them have also been changed around quite a bit, like Nyanza dye is now from claiming mining commissions. There's been a few of these that have just been made streamlined or a little bit better. And if you get a dye, make sure you get this, the Bucket of Dye. It's actually a really easy talisman to get. You just turn in a dye and it becomes a talisman. You may think to yourself, that sounds terrible, but then you may realize that Chocolate Factory exists, and you can just go to your Chocolate Factory and get yourself chocolate dye. And you only need one of those in order to actually, make the talisman, so there you go. There were also some pretty notable dungeon changes in this update. They basically removed Bomb Defuse entirely, which I'm completely and totally happy with. It really just did not function well as a puzzle. And a lot of players were initially concerned because that meant you couldn't access things like P29 anymore, which is Power 29 from Blessings. Well, that ended up getting fixed too, because now the Ice Fill puzzle has a new variant, I believe, and that variant has 2 chests from it, which is really nice to see. I'm very excited about that. I myself and a lot of other people promoted a change like that, so I'm very glad to see the admins go through with it. Really great stuff. There are a few other things I want to go over here. If you do /set max speed in chat, you can now change the speed of Rancher Boots on the fly, which is super cool. And if you may have noticed, you have lost your gemstones on the Dark Claymore, but you didn't actually lose them. You just have to bring them over to, actually get the gemstones taken out here. But this menu is currently disabled, so I guess for now, you're kind of screwed. The last thing I want to discuss today is related to the new mining fiesta, and specifically the Glossy Gemstones, and I've got to say the rates feel a little bit low. You do need a few hundred of these in order to actually make every single item, and 1 in 725 just feels a tad low for their rarity. I think something like 1 in 400 or 1 in 325 to be similar to the refined minerals would be a little bit better, but I imagine the admins would rather introduce this with a little bit of a low drop rate rather than doing a too high drop rate and just having to adjust it down later. Hopefully we do see some changes related to that. As is pretty common now, this update did release with quite a few bugs. Now that's pretty normal, things like menus being disabled, and there were some issues with Garden, but there's also some stuff like pests not spawning currently, and the menu was disabled at the start of the event, which was kind of an issue. But at the end of the day, I think this update is pretty successful, all things considered. Good QOL changes, a bunch of improvements to dyes. I really do think it's going to make the system a lot better. And on top of that, we got things like co-op unsoulbinding of things like the Ditto Blob and also the Spring Boots, which are pretty cool. I think that the admins are definitely moving the game in the right direction, and in terms of patch notes, I will definitely try to get them to you guys as soon as they're out. They haven't been out because they've been updating the forums, so hopefully we see that soon. Overall, though, I've got to say, you guys are the best community a guy could ask for. I really appreciate all the likes, comments, support recently. It has meant a ton to me. And look to the future, fellas. I'll see you then.